I'm going to start this video off with a video that I watched, or one that I tried to watch here on YouTube. Now, it was titled "The 10 Worst Places to Live Here in Arizona." Now, this obviously a guy that was using stock footage of somebody else driving around different areas, and this guy probably has never been to Arizona, probably never been to any of the places that he said were the worst. He'd kind of looked up the crime statistics, the mean income, the mean housing prices, that type of thing. Now, one place he was talking about is the area close to what's known as a zone. Now, I know that area pretty well. I've been down there quite a number of times. I've got some of the homeless people down there. There, the area that they really consider the zone, like around 9th Avenue and Madison through there, that's more in the industrial part of Phoenix. There are homes within a quarter of a mile from there. There are some very nice older homes that have been there for over 100 years, homes that have been there from the pioneering days of the city of Phoenix. And I don't think the homeless people down there, the homeless encampment really affects the lives of the people living down there, maybe a little bit, but they're far enough away from the homeless encampment and where the homes are, where people actually live down there, far enough away that it's not a serious, I wouldn't think it'd be a serious problem. But anyway, now if you're going to live, if you what considering living in a particular place, and go visit it. I mean, get the statistics on it. Get the mean income, the housing prices. What job opportunities are in the city if you're interested in a job in that area, or if you're retired, it's not as big a deal. Kind of get that. But visit the city and kind of get a feel for it. Talk to neighbors. Talk to visit around, kind of get the feel of it. Be fair to that particular city. One place that this guy was talking about was Ajo. Now, I was there as a kid. I don't know, it's been many years ago since I was a kid, but yeah, I haven't been down there a long time. One place it is on my bucket list, has been for some time, is that big open pit copper mine that they've got down in Ajo. I'd like to get video of that. And I know 3 or 4 years ago, Colin Brown, that has the Paranormal Files, had done a video from. I'm sure he got permission, from now it's a now closed hospital that took care of some of the miners. I guess from the hospital was pretty much open to not only the miners, but people that lived in that area. But it's been closed. The mine, that open pit copper mine, closed, and all those areas are pretty much on the decline. But anyway, like I said, if you're going to live in an area, visit it, get the feel for it. If you're gonna, now I've seen quite a few. I'm gonna change hands here because my thing gets stiffer. But anyway, I've seen quite a few videos where somebody would visit a particular area. I've seen it, quite a number of cities throughout the Southwest. Somebody would go through there, while they were driving, they would quote the statistics. They'd say, this is the mean household income. Let's give a certain number of people that live in this town, give the ethnic makeup of the town. Very cool stuff like that. That it was founded at a particular date. Or maybe it never was incorporated in the city. Maybe it's just a small area. But that gives us the statistics as they're driving through there. I find that very, very cool, very, very interesting to do something like that. I said, if you're gonna visit a city, if you're gonna talk about the 10 worst places to live, visit them and get some video from them. Don't just spew out statistics. Yeah, I'm not saying that quite right. Don't just spew out crap with and not talking out of your ass, so to speak. Let me throw this back now. In Bunny and Beyond Van Life's latest video, she's saying that once she had crossed the U.S. Mexico border, her English Spanish translators quit working. Now, chick, you could learn a little Spanish. You could when somebody asks you, um, oh, I'm trying to I'll skip it down. But if somebody asks you a question in Spanish, you'd be able to answer it, because Spanish is like the third most popular language, by total number of speakers on Earth. And that's certainly a language worth learning a few words in. Yo hablo español poquito. Yo hablo poquito español. And let me get to something that's quite handy if you're going to visit Mexico. These have been around a while. Called a dictionary. That one's Spanish. That one's German English. I got these at Goodwill because they were cheap. I got these for like $3 or $4. That one's French. Can never do very good in French. Like a foreign language. French is like a foreign language. I could never quite get it. And I only got this because of a couple bucks. It's Japanese. Now the problem I got with any of the Asian languages, they don't use the Western alphabet. I just got I never quite pick up Japanese. And I see another one. Let me show you. This one does use the Western alphabet. This book I bought now, brand new off of Amazon. It's like $10. It's Esperanto. Probably a lot of my viewers have never heard of Esperanto. It's a manufactured language. Now, a guy named Zamenhof back in the mid 1800s took the commonality of about 5 different languages. Well, the word I like to use, well, like the word for dog in German is Hund. Well, hound. Hound is dog in English. Or one word you can use for dog is hound in English, or Hund in German. But Hundo is a dog in Esperanto. I only know three or four words in Esperanto, but they're close enough that if you start looking at Esperanto, you can recognize words that are used in several different languages. I could never quite pick it up though. I could never quite get it. The problem with Esperanto is that there really is no native speakers. It's not really the native language of any one particular country. Nobody's adopted it. Now it was going to back in early 1900s, but Zamenhof was a Jewish guy, and Adolf Hitler, Germany was going to pick it up, and Adolf Hitler goes, "No, I want nothing to do with language invented by a Jewish guy." Well, the UN was going to adopt it. Well, the French back about the same time that Hitler was knocking it down. The French back in those days, French was a lot more prestigious language, and the French didn't want their language to get. They didn't want to. Oh, I can't phrase it right, but the French didn't want to lose their prestige with the French language, so they didn't want anything to do with Esperanto either. There's been a number of things that kept Esperanto from becoming a world language. I'm kind of thinking somebody at some point is going to do something very similar to Esperanto. Kind of include some of the Asian languages. But the thing I say for Bunny and Bit, well, she downloaded the translator apps and said, yeah, you can do that. The language pack, so it works once you go south of the border. But you can use a language translator, or you can just flat out learn a language so that you can get a little bit more comfortable with it. I can hold my own with Spanish. So somebody asks me a question, I can kind of figure out what you're talking about. I'm not proficient in the language, but I know it well enough to, because I grew up here in the Valley. You don't grow up in the Southwest U.S. without learning a little bit of Spanish. Now, there was a guy, that was a truck driver for an 18-wheeler that was parked close to where I was at Sam's Club. It's been 2 or 3 weeks ago, and this guy only spoke Mandarin. And he was come out. I approached him, and my pickup was. I didn't know if my pickup was in the way or not, and I just asked him if he needed me to move, and then he said something like, "I don't speak English" or something like that, and then he he showed me his phone. He had a translating app, but one of those ones that not only will they do text, they'll do a voice. So I don't know quite. I'm guessing those work by AI. I've often wondered how accurate those were, if they're because I've heard people say that sometimes when you use it, you got to be careful when you use those because sometimes something gets changed in the. I'm wondering how accurate translations are when you use an AI app. But anyway, I'd ask this guy on his phone if I was in his way. Then he got the results, and he took a minute to read it, and then he shook his head no, hopped in the cab of his truck, and took off. Now I think of that Russian guy. I had my phone with me. I had a translator app on my phone, but I didn't think about actually using my app on my phone. I could have, I suppose. But there was this guy down at WSM. This has been about 2 or 3 years ago, and I covered this when it happened. I had it here on YouTube. Now there was this guy he wanted me to buy. It was parked in the WSM lot, and I thought later, now that's all auction stuff, and I don't get why that WSM would let him sell something out of that, auction lot. And I'm just wondering if if that's actually his truck or just wanted to pull some type of scandal, some type of scam with me. I don't know. I wondered that, but the I think the only thing I know in Russian is like da, niet, placebo, and das Vistanya. So again, I say das Vistanya, ciao, y vaya con Dios, auf Wiedersehen, au revoir, bye, y vaya con Dios. That's one thing the bunnies should learn. Hola, and y vaya con Dios.